Today, we're going to embark on an icon design journey. You ever wonder how they do these cool sorts of animations? Well, that's what we're going to find out. Hey everyone, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today we're going to start a two-part little crash course on animating icon designs using something called Lottie.js. Now I covered Lottie.js probably about 2 years ago, but I wanted to refresh this and do a bit better of a job covering it. But basically it allows you to use Adobe After Effects to create animations that can be used on native applications and also on the web. So this is a two-part series. The first part, which is today, we're just going to be stepping into Adobe Illustrator in order to design our icons and get them all set up. And then in day two, which will be released in 2 days here on Wednesday, we'll finish it up by stepping into Adobe After Effects in order to create the animations, and then also HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that will finish it all up and get us right to what you see here in this project. All right, so as always, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's get started. Before we begin, this video is sponsored by Linode. Now, Linode supplies servers that let you deploy apps, sites, and services that are both flexible and scalable. Linode's one-click apps make it easy to set up a web stack or a WordPress instance in under a minute. Simple pricing starting at $5 per month ensures there's no hidden fees or surprise bills. So sign up with the link below and use this code right here to receive a free $20 credit on your Linode account. All right, so I'm here in Adobe Illustrator and I have a new document window open here. And for the width and height, obviously for icons, you want to work within a square 1:1 aspect ratio. The width and height, I just want to use something that's large enough for me to work easily. You don't have to work at the size that you plan on it being, like 40 by 40 or whatever, because whatever the bodymovin in Lottie exports is not dependent on size. You can make it small or as large as possible. So I'm just going to hit create here and wait for that. Funny file names, don't look at them. All right, so now the next order of business is to go to view. We're going to show the grid, and we're also going to snap to grid as well. And that will make it so that any anchor points that we add will be added directly onto the grid. All right, so the thing you have to ask yourself when you're going to design icons, first, what icons do you need? For that, I'm not going to really focus on that. That's kind of like more of a UX topic. I'm going to assume you already know which icons you want to design. And then the first step, which I'm not showing, is just a brainstorm. And usually you do that with pen, pencil, on paper, or you can do it on your stylus, on your cell phone, whatever you have, your Wacom Cintiq, your tablet, it doesn't matter. Just so you get a good idea, not about just what the icon is going to look like, which is obviously important, but also how it's going to animate between different states, because we're creating animated icons. So I did that trust me, I spent literally like 5 to 10 minutes on 3 different icons, just going from a very rough, ugly before state to a very rough, ugly after state, and then thinking, how are these parts going to animate, from one state to another? Okay, so I'll shut up and let's get started. The first one I'm going to do is like a clipboard icon. So this could be useful like on a desktop app of some sort, where you want to copy some data. You want to allow a user to click on it, like hover. Maybe it'll show the animation on hover. Click on it, and then they can copy some data. And so we have to create the before and after state here in Adobe Illustrator, and then we will import those into After Effects and animate them appropriately. But so we're going to create all the shapes pretty much here in Illustrator first, and then import those and convert those to shapes in After Effects. So we're going to do a clipboard. It's a rectangle. So that's the first element we're going to get on there. So we have the rectangle tool, and I know where exactly the center is based on these grid lines that we have here. It's just right here in the center. So if I just left click, drag, hold Alt, and I'm just going to get out. Now I didn't go in the center of this document vertically. So let me come back here. This is pretty much the center right here. Yeah, exactly right there, pretty much. So I'm just going to, I want a lot of white space on the outside of my elements here. So I'm gonna say maybe right around here is fine. And I'm just going to have slight border edge radiuses, corners, probably around 20 pixels or so. And also the size, I'm going to choose like around, I think 9. 9 will work. You know what? Let's make this even, go to 10. All right. So I don't want this to be filled icons for the most part. So they're just going to be transparent outside of the stroke. So we want to click on the fill here during appearance. And if you don't see any of these windows, by the way, just go to window and you'll find it and it'll pop up somewhere. All right, so now it is transparent in the middle. And a clipboard, people commonly recognize that as being an actual clipboard if you have some sort of metal piece up here. So what I'm going to do is probably drag this down just a bit, and then it's going to make room for, actually we can just take this and just copy it. So Control C, then Control F, we'll replicate it. We'll drag up the copy, hold Alt, drag this in. Now also, when you're scaling and transforming paths and strokes like that, you're going to want to make sure to go to Window. We're going to go to, let's see here. You have properties. I'll make sure it's on my other screen. Transform. You want to uncheck scale corners and also uncheck scale strokes and effects. All right. Because otherwise, if this is checked on, for instance, we start doing that, and then you have inconsistent weights in terms of your strokes. And when you're dealing with icons like these outline icons, you don't want that. You don't want that inconsistency. All right. So now we'll drag this up, maybe right around there. Hold Alt. Always use Alt when you're dealing with an icon like this. You want it to be symmetrical as possible, or for elements that are supposed to be symmetrical, like that. Let's see here. Now I want this to come down enough so that the inner element, like the paper that's going to be, I'm going to have like a paper that's being held by this area right here, so that it can actually overlap it a little bit or go underneath it. So I think right around there is fine. Now this line going in the middle doesn't make sense, having it go in the middle. So what we can do is I'm going to copy this element right here, Control C, Control F. I'm going to hold Alt, and then maybe just go out 2 grid lines the way I have and let go. Then we'll hold Shift and select this layer right here, or this path rather, so that we have these 2 paths selected. I can go ahead and extend these layers real quick to show you. And then go to Pathfinder, Window Pathfinder if you don't have it. And then we will minus front. Now I know that looks terrible, so let's go to the Direct Selection tool. And we'll delete one of these anchor points. Delete that one. Delete that one. And there we go. It's exactly what we want. Now I know at large size that seems like a lot of space between this element, but really you need to keep on going back and forth. Hit Control H here. Or wait, no, that's a different app. If we go to Hide Grid, there we go. We can see what this looks like at a smaller size. So you really want, your areas where there's supposed to be white space to actually have a decent enough white space. All right, so let's go to View and get that grid back. All right, so next up is the actual paper that will be on here. Again, we can scale out from the center. There we go, holding Alt once again. We can pull this down. All right. And I think that will look good. We just want to make sure that, again, we do the same thing here. So we Control C, Control F, Alt, and then I'll pull this down all the way because I don't want the corner being affected by that. We hold Shift, we select the paper element. There we go. And then minus front. Oop. Nope, I screwed that up. What we want to do is make sure that this element right here is on the top. There we go. So do that again, minus front. We'll go ahead and delete these anchor points. Sort of like that. All right. Okay, so now what we want to do is, this is going to be just the actual icon in and of itself. And you know what? I'm thinking to myself, maybe I want to scale this in just a tad bit. I like that better. It was too close to the edge, and it still works. Okay, so now this is going to be what the icon looks like by default when nobody's hovering over it. So this is the clipboard, you know, signifying that you can copy whatever data is being shown to a clipboard or something like that by clicking it. So now what we want to do is I'm going to take this element right here. All right, so that's our path. And we are going to duplicate it, Control-C, Control-F. And what we need to do now is create like the end state of what it's going to look like. So what I'll do is just temporarily hide this other one that we just duplicated. So we only have the copy we have there now. I'm going to take this anchor point right here and drag down like that. I'm going to click on that anchor point and then draw up to create like a check mark. All right, just like that. This obviously isn't what I want the end state to look like, but I need this whole path right here. In fact, let me show you what the end state will look like. So we get rid of these paths, and it's pretty much going to look like this. But we want the whole path because we want to animate this path in, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, you'll see once we get to part 2 in After Effects how that will work. But it's a very cool effect. So you can make your adjustments. You can make yours look like mine, whatever. But really, for this first icon, we're almost done. What we want to do, though, is by default, Illustrator will put all your paths into the same layer. But we want to export every individual path that we intend on animating independently from the other paths. And so we want to add those into new paths. So we'll call this first layer 1. We'll call this, we'll call it board. There we go. And the board will simply be this element and this element, these two elements right here, because they don't need to animate in and of themselves. They're not going to animate. So we need to create 2 new layers. This first one will be called check for the checkbox layer, which is this path. We're going to just left click, drag over on top. And then we're also going to create another layer called paper. So the paper layer is going to be, let's see here. Let's hide this. Yeah, it's going to be this layer. It's the layer without the check, the first one that we made, because I want to animate this paper out, and then while it's animating out, this check paper or layer or whatever will animate in at the same time. So it creates kind of a cool effect. You'll see. So we'll just drag that in there. So now if we bring these all back, here is just our board layer right here. Then we have our paper. Then we have the check. So we have 3 layers all in all, and we're just going to have them all visible by default. So now what we want to do is go ahead and save this as an AI file. And I'll call this clipboard. And just save it. When this dialog comes up, just hit OK. And there we go. We're good to go for the first icon. All right, so now we're going to create the second one. Same exact dimensions, 500 pixels by 500 pixels. And we're just going to move this stuff out of the way. Again, same thing, show grid and also snap to grid. And we want it to be roughly the same size. And so I know I didn't go higher than these grid lines or lower than these, higher and lower than these grid lines shown here. So for this one, it's just going to be like an hourglass. So this could signify a lot of different things, like something's loading, whatever. But it's going to be an hourglass, and we're going to animate the damn thing. All right, so for this, the way I think I'll do it is just the pen tool. And I'm just going to come out here and probably come right around. I know the center is right here. So I'm just creating, maybe we'll come down here, drag out. And I know the center is right here. So I'm going to come out just a little bit like this, maybe right there. And then hold shift and also drag for the Bezier curve. All right, so again, we made those 10, the stroke is 10, so we want to make sure those are the same. And now we'll go ahead and take this once again, Control C, Control F, right click, transform, reflect, and we'll do horizontal. Again, we have to make sure there's no fill, that's why it's doing that. Still having that issue, it's kind of strange. There we go. All right, that looks good. So now what we'll do is take this and we will wait, let's make sure, by the way, there's no fills on these, so I have them both selected. All right, we'll go ahead and Control C, Control F that, and right click, transform, reflect, dog is being loud. Go to vertical this time, and we're gonna move it over, all right on the other edge, or other grid line on this side. All right, so that's our really skinny woman right there. So now what we'll do is we're going to create the top and bottom. So we'll take the rectangle tool. I don't want it to be higher than this. So we're going to just drag out, and we will zoom in with Alt and the scroll wheel, and then just drag these border edges. Stop that. Why is it doing that? Okay, I guess we can do it in here. I haven't done it manually here in a long time. Just put like 100 pixels. There we go. Okay, so now what we'll do is I'm gonna take everything here, bring this down right to the middle, and I think we'll also take these as well and scale them in holding Alt, and we'll drag them down. There we go. And you can drag them in a little bit more if you want. I think that's cool right there. We'll take this, Control C, Control F, and yep, right there is good. Drag this up. Awesome. So that looks pretty solid to me right there. So now this is the before state. So when somebody hovers over it, we're going to make it animate into another state. Now for now, I know this entire section, I personally don't want any animation to take place upon any of these paths. So we're just going to rename this one here to hourglass, and then we'll create a new layer. And this one, we'll name it to sand, I guess. And I'm only going to I plan on having 3 pieces of sand animate in. So I'm just going to take an ellipse right there in the middle, Shift Alt, drag out. This time we don't want a stroke. I mean, they could be stroke based. I mean, I guess that would be fine. Maybe I will make them stroke based. I was planning on having just filled in black, but I think we'll do that instead. But we don't need to create 3 of them. So I'm just going to put this one up here just for now. But they're going to come from the top, and they're going to fall in, and then they're going to fill up the bottom. So the way to fill up the bottom, let's create a new layer, because that's going to animate as well. We'll just call this bottom sand, I guess. All right, that's good. We will create a rectangle, rather, not an ellipse, right here. I think it'll go about that high, and this time we will fill it in. I was thinking maybe not to fill it in, but I think we'll just fill it in. Yeah. So fill it in with black, and there we go. So this will be almost the end state. When this is filled up, you won't see any more of the pieces of sand or whatever come in. So yeah, I think that's good right there. So those are our 3 layers that we'll be animating, or rather just 2, and we're going to replicate these 2 times in After Effects to make them fall in and fill this up. All right, so make sure you save that. I saved mine as hourglass.ai, and that's good. So now we'll just do one more, a 3rd icon. And so I'm just going to save this as This time we're going to do download. We'll just call it like a cloud download button. All right, so now we have that saved. We can get rid of all this. We can delete any of these layers. Let's see here, delete, there we go. This one, we'll just call this one cloud. And now we're going to create a cloud, something so that it just looks like a cloud with a little down icon. And then when they click on it, it'll have some type of little animation where the arrow animates out or whatever. So initially for this, I think I'm going to use a rectangle for the bottom of the cloud. I think we're going to make it a little bit wider than the other icons. So I think we'll just start off like right here. I want to make sure this is even, so I'm going to go from the center. All right. It's going to be a big old thick cloud, so we're going to drag those all the way in. And then let's also, for now, get rid of this. It's actually going to be an outline icon again, but I just want to deal with solid shapes right here for this. Then we're going to take the ellipse tool, Shift-Alt, make this one pretty big. Control-C, Control-F will replicate that. That looks solid right there. So now we'll take all those, Pathfinder, we'll unite, then we can just go back to our 10-point stroke, get rid of that, and now we're rocking. So we'll put this up to here, which is the top grid line that we've been working with. And then we want to have a section where we have a down arrow. All right, so we'll take the pen tool. Just going to hold Shift. I don't want it to go beneath this. Actually, where were we before? Was it this far? I can't even remember. Probably was. Anyhow, I'm just going to go just around here for now. And we can also change these end caps. We can go to stroke to make them rounded. And then I'm going to take the pen tool again. I'm going to come out maybe to around here. Just like that. All right, so that's looking pretty solid right there. So let me think here. Maybe I want to make this a little bit more centered. Okay. Now the reason I want to do that is because the end state of this icon after the animation's played, when it's being hovered over, it's not going to have this. It's not going to have the arrow. So first of all, what I want to do is group those up, those two elements, to create the whole arrow, and then create a new layer, call it arrow, and then we'll put the group here in there. All right, I guess the group is unnecessary because it's already grouped up by the layer itself, so I'm just being a little bit picky. Right click on group, there we go. So now we have our cloud, we have our arrow, and what it will look like in the end is like this. So I kind of wanted this more centered, a little bit more vertically. Probably can go a little bit more like that. And what I was thinking initially when I tried this out, I tried doing a mask in here because I don't like these two intersecting lines. It looks better when there's a white space from this line of the arrow. But when you go to import that into After Effects and convert it to a shape from the AI file, it ignores the mask. So what we'll do is go ahead and create the mask in After Effects. So this isn't what it's going to look like ultimately, but we're going to create the mask in After Effects instead of doing it here in Adobe Illustrator. And so that is it. So make sure you have your layers all named up correctly and separated at least correctly, and then save this. And now we have our three icons that in the next section, we're going to go ahead and, or in the final part of this little crash course, we're going to go ahead and step into After Effects, and then we will animate them, and then we'll export them with the bodymovin plugin, and then we'll hop into Visual Studio Code and make it a reality. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Make sure to subscribe because in 2 days, I'm going to be releasing the second and final part of the series where we complete these icon designs. And also click the bell notification icon so that you always get a notification. See you soon.